Sweet sound and barrel dippily heavily ever to back up Libby bells and sweet sound and barrel dippily heavily ever to back up Libby bells and Bobby, she was prettier than Venus. She was so beautiful. Sweet sound and barrel dippily heavily ever to back up Libby bells and sweet sound and barrel dippily heavily ever to back up Libby bells and she was love, 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 she was love.
Hello, cherished viewers. My name is Pieretta Elinam Anaglu, and I'm pleased to be welcoming you to the Learned Counsel program. Today, we have joined here with us a mastermind, a writer, who is also a lawyer and a professor. He is in the person of Professor Lawyer Nana Oppong. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good.
Okay, I'm pleased to have you here. I'm so glad. So today we'll be talking about one of his books titled Seduction and Legal Empires. Captivating, right? Sorry. The title of the book got me. Like when I was going through all of his books, I just saw that book, the title, and I knew that that was the one for me. So Professor, how did you come up with this title? Because it's very captivating. I don't know how you went about it.
So if you're going to talk about power, then you should talk about power in a way that catches attention. So I think Seduction and Legal Empires is a very good title. I don't understand how I came up with the title, but I know, as I was saying in the book, that you cannot have power unless you're seductive. And seduction is lovability. So those who are seductive have something that people like, people are drawn to. So seductive countries are those countries that have goods and services and even dreams that people rush forward to. So seduction and legal empires, they go together.
Okay. So what is your drive in writing the book?
I wanted to know why a lot of countries have people loving them. You see some countries and people, if they say visa, people line up midnight till the next morning just to go to those countries. And even when people are rich in their own countries, they want to go to those countries. And why other countries are not attracting the same amount of traffic in terms of loyalty, in terms of desire to migrate, and so on. And I was able to determine that it's because those countries have something that they offer to people, and their countries don't offer the same things or similar things or even nothing at all. And so start making the connection between being powerful and having things to offer and being powerless and having nothing to offer. And you see, I think there's a scripture that says, those who have little, the little they have will be taken away and given to those who have more. So powerful nations, smart nations are seductive. Weak nations are not seductive at all. They don't have much to offer. And so people living there have no loyalty to them. They're just praying to get the opportunity to leave those countries. And that's why I wrote the book.
Okay, so upon reading the book, I see that everything boils down to laws, addiction, and power. I would want to take the introduction and the thesis statement so my viewers know what the book is truly about. So if you would please. The introduction. Power is very important. I'm sure you would all agree with me on that. It can make the difference between life and death, and between misery and happiness. This is why both individuals and communities struggle daily for power. What is power? Power is the sum of what is required to solve a problem decisively. You know, from JHS, the definition we all know for power is the ability or capacity to do something, like to do one thing or another. How did you come up with this definition? Like, is it a political definition, an economic definition, or?
No, it's actually a scientific definition of power, which means the ability to solve a problem decisively. The use of the word decisively means against all obstacles, so you don't have any obstacle. When you are hungry and you're able to eat and eat well, it means you have the power to eat. So power completes the mission. It is not frustrated. Whereas if you define it in a way that results in frustration and obstacles, stopping the thing or interfering with it, then it's not power. So powerful nations are able to get their projects and missions fulfilled. If it is money, they have the money. If it's technology, they have it. If it's manpower, they have it. If it's legal authority, they have it. That is power. The ability to get what you want without obstruction.
Okay. So thank you very much. Let me continue. In the not so distant past, power was defined more by military and economic might, so that the ability and the economic, in the not so distant past, power was defined more by military and economic might, so that the ability to create fear and to erect monstrosities was the measure of power. In that world of fat and blood, the fat and blood, is it like in the world of flesh, in the world of human beings, or
Yes.
what does it talk about?
In the world of largesse, of bigness, of authority, of threats and alarms, and blood, pain, injury, suffering. That's what I mean by that word of fat and blood.
Blood. Okay, okay. So in that world of fat and blood, the script was simpler, so that categories such as national borders, first world, third world democracies versus dictators, etc., held predicative measures. The key measures of power in those ages were abundantly fiscal, as proved by accumulations of gold, large numbers of so-called infantry, a pile of weapons as mass destruction, and so on. When power was size and therefore defined as volumes of accumulated things and persons within a location, intangibles counted for very little. Sorry. Let me go over. When power was size and therefore defined by volumes of accumulated things and persons within a location, intangibles counted for very little. The focus was on quantities, brute force, money, and guns. But in the ancient days, you could see, in the case of our colonial masters or colonialism, you could see that the power was not only vested in riches or might, but was also vested in intelligence. So it was also out of intelligence, wouldn't you think?
So what I'm saying in that passage is that in the past, to have the ability to conquer people, to use force against them. For example, in the colonial days, you were talking about foreigners controlling a large majority of people. They did so through force. And the colonialists often used force when it was necessary to quell insurgencies. Even the fight for freedom was not that easy. In many places, people died, and it was very difficult, all because of power. And that power was defined as, if you don't listen to me, I will destroy you, I'll jail you, I'll kill you. So that was the definition of power, that empires arose and fell based on war. And war defined territories, war defined everything. And war was ammunition, weapons, infantry, and so on. But now, the ability to get all these done has arisen, evolved away from I have gold, I have guns, I have men, to I have geniuses, I have brilliant people, I have smart people who are loyal to me, who work with me on a project. So that's what we're saying now. There's an evolution and a change in the definition and understanding of power, where it's moved away from physical to intellectual, to engineering, to science, to collaborations. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so that's all for the introduction. In your next paragraph, there was something that really got to me. You said power is intellectual and spiritual. How does the spirit's world relate to power or law in any way?
So when I talk about spiritual, I'm referring to that aspect of the human being which is not physical. And you see, it has to do with the imagination. The spirit of man starts from his imagination, resides in the imagination, and then moves on to so-called materiality. So when you have power based upon the ability of people to know nature, to understand and to manipulate nature, using the laws of nature to create algorithms and applications and technologies and all that, It is based on the faith of people. It's based upon the trust of people, the relationship between people, the continuity of things. And all of that, at the end of it, is not brute physicality. It is spirit. It is emotion. It is faith. It is the ability of people to actually imagine something which doesn't exist and then work together to create it together. Do you understand? So when I say power is spiritual, I'm not talking about magic or in terms of spirits dancing up and down. It is that otherworldliness that arises through imagination, through collaboration, and we're able to create things that did not exist before by learning from nature and applying nature.
Okay. That's great. That's amazing. From your book, I believe you said power was founded by intelligent and smart people. And so initially, power was being vested in all of these smart and intelligent people we have in the world. But have you ever wondered why and how power changed from being vested into the intelligent people into now being in the hands of corrupt, selfish, and dumb people?
We have to define power in two ways. There's power, which is physical power, and money power, which is some people controlling the finances of a country and physically have the ability to jail people or to torture people or to hurt people. And then there's the power to create. The power to create can only be in the hands of smart and goodwill and collaborating people, whereas the power to destroy is only a few people and it doesn't go very far. When you destroy, that's it. But when you create, you can go on and on and on. Nature reproduces and grows and continues, whereas people who follow the path of destruction, they don't continue, they don't grow. And if the base is destroyed, then how can you be strong when you're on top of the base? Do you understand? So power, real power, which is productive power, creative power, useful power, resides in smart people, smart nations. What I mean by smart people, I'm talking about leadership that understands that you cannot do it alone, and you can't even do it in one generation. And then power actually continues from generation to generation. So they have long-term plans and then extended plans. They're not just thinking of myself, they're thinking of ourselves. And that self extends across generations. So smart nations are those nations who really connect with nature and mirror nature to make sure that everything they do is almost like an organism, a living organism. They see themselves as embedded or growing from within and situated within nature, and they work with nature, acquire authority, acquire power, and to use that power for their own good. And in reality, those who have power and authority and understanding can actually dominate those who don't. And that's why human beings actually dominate animals and the rest of the ecosystem, because of our power. But that power is not equal. Some people have more, some people have less. Some nations have more, some nations have less.
Okay. So here you spoke of the smart nations, meaning we have like the smart and the dumb nations. Relating this to our nation, Ghana, do you think we are part of the smart nations or we are part of the dumb nations?
I wouldn't want to discuss smart nations versus dumb nations in that way, but what I want to say is every nation has an opportunity to become a smart nation, because we're all from the same God, right?
Yeah.
And what one nation can do, another nation can do. But there are paths. It's like if you want to be a nurse, there are certain things you have to know and practice and be certified before you become a nurse. And so if you want to be a nurse, you can't just say, I want to be a nurse. You have to go through the processes and the procedures and the certification process. The same thing for Ghana, for other countries, for any other country. So what I would say is, in the book, I show how smart nations operate. They see every citizen, so every intellectual, every smart person, every creative person in the world as a potential citizen. And then they try and recruit that person from wherever the person is. And technology allows it to happen. A lot of people are actually citizens of another nation because they love that nation, even though physically they're not there. So somebody can be actually in Ghana, and then the person would love America or France or wherever it is. And they have the technology that will allow them to access American food, American clothes, American products. They can order, somebody can even order food from any place, even for it delivered. And. So you see, The world is shifting away from citizen being someone who is physically in the country. A citizen was virtually in the country. And virtual presence is real. Because if I'm virtually present in your country, I'm talking to someone, I'm relating to something, I'm consuming something, I'm ordering something, what difference doesn't that make? It makes a whole lot of difference in my life. And so we should stop thinking of citizenship as physical presence in a country and think of it as intellectual presence.
Okay, okay. So we have a subheading here. That's smarter foreigners as citizens. So here you are talking about dump nations or any kind of nation getting smarter people from other countries to their countries to help them grow. Why not take your own people or your own citizens instead of accommodating people from other countries? Won't it be too much of work?
It's already happening where citizens of other countries who have a little bit of money or a little bit of education are coming into foreign countries or developing countries and setting up industries and businesses and making a lot of money and profits, becoming more powerful in those nations. The governments are not inviting them, they're coming themselves, they're inviting themselves because they see opportunity. But of course, what you're saying is true, that it is good for the country to nurture loyalty among brilliant citizens. So they have to nurture brilliance as well among the citizens and loyalty so that they will stay and contribute and help the nation. If they're not brilliant and if they're not loyal, or they're loyal, they're not brilliant, or they're brilliant, they're not, it won't help. So we need a combination of incentives, training, certification, making sure that people can do the work and you make it worth their while to do the work for the nation. Then they stay for the nation.
Okay, dear lovely viewers, I'm sure you've grabbed a lot from all that he has said. We would have to pause now and go for a short commercial break, so please stay tuned.
Sweet sound and Maryland, dippily, heavily, velvet, and back up, Lee B. Belton. Sweet sound and Maryland, dippily, heavily, velvet, and back up, Lee B. Belton. Barbie, she was prettier than Venus. She was so beautiful. Sweet sound and Maryland, dippily, heavily, velvet, and back up, Lee B. Belton. Sweet.
Welcome back, lovely viewers. We're going to continue from where we stopped. I think we're talking about the dump nations and the smart nations, talking about whether Ghana is a smart nation or a dump nation. So, Professor, I just want to leave that aside because you've spoken about it already. So yes, talking about the smart people coming into the dump nations to make them grow, don't you think other countries can bribe them or can change their minds to leave your country and go in for theirs to help them?
Yeah, it's not even the word bribe, incentivize them. And it's competition. So if you have a nation that you want people to come in, then you should be seductive. You should have the products and the service they want. You should give them the conditions, the security, the job opportunities, the honors and the payments, all the things that other nations can offer them. So if you are a nation and you don't have anything to offer people, they won't come. Because why should he ignore a better option and come to a lower option?
Yeah.
But as you were saying before, why can't the nations grow their own smart people? It's part of the project they should do. But many nations need jobs now. They need the experts now. They need the specialists now. And so importing them now will solve an immediate problem, short-term problem. But yes, in the long run, every nation should have a sufficient number of intelligent people who are loyal to that nation, working together to discover, to create, and to produce the things that people want. If you're not working on that as a nation, then in 20, 50, 100 years' time to come, that nation will regress because they will not be able to compete with other nations which are growing in population, growing in algorithms and intelligence and institutions and technologies and expanding your frontiers. And then you're sitting now in your little corner, regressing and always asking for money or for help or for whatever. You won't succeed.
Okay.
I actually see a future where the poorer and weaker nations would become provinces of, recolonized of bigger nations.
Okay. We're just hoping that comes. pass. So that, okay. Meaning in real life, countries are actually competing or fighting against each other for these smart people.
Yes.
Wow, that's
And
great.
they're doing that not because of anything, but because smart people build the industries, the solutions to problems. What is a technological problem? What is a legal problem, economic problem, medical problem, pandemic problem? Whatever it is, dumb people can't solve the problem because they in fact cause more problems.
It's very true.
But then God has created the world in such a way that intelligence is distributed worldwide. So it's very interesting that you won't find all the smart people born in one nation only. A lot of smart people are born in different nations, in villages, in town, in countries that you don't even think about. But a really smart nation, you put your eyes out there and say, who is smart in this? Who's smart in that? Who's great in this? And who's great in that? And you try and get them to add to your stock already. So you think of it as jewel, that you have a collection, but there are other people with other collections, but you can get them to come and join your collection so your collection gets better, brighter, and more valuable. And that's what you're doing.
Okay. I think I have to join these smart people. I need to take my books very serious so countries can fight for me or to get me. Okay.
And there are so many countries that are looking for brilliant people.
Yeah.
And even your own nation should admire you and help you to become bright. And if you're really bright, to help you to shine. Because when you're shining somewhere, you don't want to go dim. You don't want the lights to be turned off. It's only when you're not being appreciated and supported and given opportunity that the smart ones migrate to other countries. There are countries where if you're really good, they will say awa awa to welcome, and they will love you. And everybody wants to go somewhere where they are loved and welcome. And that's the point of seduction.
Okay.
Which nations are seductive? Is your nation seductive? What is the list of things they offer as seduction? What are the addictions they offer? The goods, the candies, the services, the monies, the awards, where are they? If you don't have some, then your country has a problem.
Okay, so in getting the smart people, you gave 3 avenues for accessing and controlling these smart people. That's part of they being loyal, getting them to be loyal to your country. And you gave the 3 of them, as I said, law, technology, and education. Then you said law is the most effective system. How is that the most effective system
Law
and not technology?
molds expectations, character, creates obedience, it creates control, it creates relationships, it's predictable, or at least predictability. So you find the Most High God gives you the world and he gives you laws to obey. And people who are law-abiding, you can count on them. And law-abiding people actually are more loyal because you know where they are, what they will do, what they won't do. If you don't have laws, chaos happens. Who controls? Nothing is predictable. And. So as you produce the goods and services or you're seductive, you must combine that with laws to make sure people do what you want. And that is why every nation that has seduction also has laws, law and order, and they take them very seriously. If you break the law, you're breaking your entitlement to the seduction, or your privileges will be taken away from you. So you find in countries that do very well, not only are they seductive, but they're law-based and they don't tolerate chaos, disorder.
Okay. So in picking law as the most effective system, you classified it as rule of law.
Yes.
Okay. For the sake of our viewers, I would want you to please enlighten us on it.
So rule of law is where nobody is above the law, where everything is logically connected to everything else in a system of do's and don'ts. And if you do this, this is what will happen. If you don't do this, this is what will happen. And it's enforced. There's no general sense of bribery and breakdown of enforcement. In that system, there's duty of care. People care for one another. In that system, things are predictable because we know what everybody will do or supposed to do. And we know even if there are aberrations, there will be very few and little. So in that world of rule and order, what happens is things move smoothly. If there's traffic, people are supposed to drive 60 kilometers an hour. People drive 60 kilometers an hour. The light is ready to stop, they stop. And it goes. So if you're driving, you know. If people are supposed to be sleeping at a certain time, they sleep. If people are supposed to make payment for something, they do. So everything, in a way, leads to predictability. Just like your body, everything is predictable, works like a clock. So in a world of legal empires where law works, things work like clockwork. Human beings can trust one another. Even if you don't trust one another, they can't hurt you that much because what they do is regulated by law. And the system is reliable. That type of world is where you create industries that work, markets that work, businesses that work, institutions that work. Where there's no rule of law and people just do things according to the whims of the dictator, things are not predictable, things are not reliable, things are chaotic. And then what you have is a breakdown of the nation. And then everybody does what they want in corruption, in coup d'etats, in problems, in insecurity, in violence, and so on.
Okay. So, in your explanation, you mentioned that in rule of law, there is peace and stability. That's like a democratic state, or brings about democracy. You see, people are very stubborn, and so in some countries, they have to force them to obey the laws. And so and so don't you think there should be dictatorship? That's to help people do what is right.
So it depends on the definition of the dictatorship. If there's a dictatorship of excellent laws, like nature dictates its laws upon us, we have no choice about the laws of nature. We obey them. You have to eat at a certain time, or at least you have to eat, you have to drink, you have to sleep, you have to, if you get infected, you have to take medicines or take care of yourself otherwise. So there are laws that are dictated upon us by the universe. So those type of laws, they're dictated, but they're good for us. A dictatorship of nature, of that nature, if it helps us, is good. But a dictatorship of people, where the people are not that, they're not like God, they're just like us. And then why should one person, a few people who are like us, have the power to dictate to us what they want? That is very unreasonable. It's not good. It leads to chaos, it leads to problems, it leads to corruption, it leads to all kinds of problems. But the rule of law is actually a form of democracy if it is applied well, because then everybody obeys the same law, subject to the same conditions, there's no favoritism, and everything is predictable. Whether it is a democracy or it's not a democracy, if you obey the rule of law and you enforce the laws equally and in a just way, it leads to the same results, which is order, reliability, peace, and so on. But in a dictatorship, which I don't approve of dictatorships at all, a man or a few men determine for the whole population what they should do, what they shouldn't do. When those men are not sent by God, they don't have any special authority or wisdom. They're just normal people with guns. That is what's wrong with a dictatorship. Democracy is excellent if it is understood and the people are empowered and if they're smart enough to contribute and everybody follows the rule of law.
Okay, that's good. That's amazing. And that, as living organisms, you made a statement. Let me just read it out. The laws of smart nations are therefore impersonal, progressive, and post-political. You know, literally, we take that as after political or like after politics. But analogically, how would you term that?
So it means that when they are passing the laws, they don't care whether it's left, right, liberal, center. They just say these laws are good for this industry and we apply it. Whoever is in charge, doesn't matter, we apply the law. So it doesn't even think about your manifestos and your politics and whether you are in power or not. Post-political meaning, it doesn't really care about the politics of it. And impersonal meaning that they're not looking at, do you like it, don't you like it? What they look at, does it work, is it good, is it beneficial, does it give us a result? It's scientific based and it's not based on any whims of any personal desires and so on. So when you apply such laws, it's almost like applying the laws of nature. I was talking about the dictatorship of nature. If it is good for achieving the results that we want, for the benefit of mankind, the welfare of the nation, then it's good. But if you impose laws out of whim to oppress people, to suppress people, to enslave people, to weaken people, marginalize people, cause pain and suffering, that is wickedness. Whether it's called dictatorship or not, it is wickedness. So the seduction is not about negative seduction or injurious seduction or dangerous seduction, but positive, useful, beneficial seduction that actually attracts people because of the health benefits, the financial benefits, the social benefits, the personal benefits, the intellectual benefits, the cultural benefits, the creative benefits. So if you have those benefits, then you attract very smart people. And when they come, they will be loyal. They won't leave. And you have to add the laws to make sure everything is predictable, reliable, secure, and everybody is on board.
Okay, okay, okay. And then moving forward, you were talking about, the book is about power, it's about attraction, and it's about loyalty. Oh, sorry, forgotten. Attraction, loyalty, and all of those things. But then later you mentioned the market, saying that the laws need the market, or the market is the rightful place for seduction or for attraction. That's to get the smart people to stay in the country. I didn't really get that. I'm getting...
Yeah, so if you have the goods and
side.
services, the best way to distribute it naturally is that there's a marketplace where smart people can make contributions and they sell their products and they're rewarded, and the government takes the taxes and the government does research with the smart people and they go back together. And if you don't have a marketplace, then it becomes favoritism. It becomes the government saying, now, so you, I like you, I'll give you this. That it doesn't work. But the natural way of distributing and encouraging resources to be shared or to be developed among people is the marketplace. So if you see, even in dictatorships, they like markets because the market, I take my goods, my ideas, my products, the market likes it, it goes very well. So the market is the best way for seduction to operate naturally, sustainably, so that excellent things come out of it as a matter of fact, not as a matter of politics.
Okay. So under the rule of law, we have lawbreakers everywhere. In the case where you have these lawbreakers in a nation or in a country, what do you think should be done to them?
Oh, you know the answer, that if someone is breaking the law but they expect the benefits of others obeying the law, then he's a cheater. And we should encourage cheating, because if everybody cheats, then what happens to the system? It falls apart. So people should not be encouraged to break laws. No, not at all. And we should live in a society where we all understand the benefits of abiding by laws, because we all have a duty to make sure that our lives don't hurt others but benefit others. When you break laws, you hurt others. And then if others do the same thing to you, would you be able to enjoy your life? No. Do unto others what you want them to do unto you. Lawbreakers are cheaters and they should not be encouraged. You cannot have a system unless everybody obeys that system, or the vast majority obey the system. So rule of law goes down with seduction. Seduction depends on the rule of law.
Okay. Coming back to the market, I didn't get that side. I don't know if you're talking about local market or
I'm referring
national.
to the economy.
Yeah.
A place where people are free to exchange ideas, to produce services that people want, products that people want. It should not be the function of the government to dictate to people, do this, don't do that. That will not lead to creativity. It will not lead to innovativeness. It will not lead to anything that would encourage the smart ones to create, to sacrifice, and to do things. That's what I mean by the market. A place where people are free to create and to share their ideas. A place where people can distribute their ideas and products and services without hindrance from government or from the dictators. That's what I mean by the market.
Okay, Prof. So the point here is that the legal cultures must work closely with the market in a step-by-step way, or a tete-a-tete kind of way. I remember some time ago, instead of saying tete-a-tete, I said tete-a-tete because I didn't know it was French.
Yeah,
like I felt
funny.
so embarrassed.
Oh no, it sounds like tete-a-tete, but
Yes.
it's tete-a-tete, yes.
Okay,
Head
so
to head.
Okay, so the main idea here is that the legal culture and the market should work together, or should go hand in hand.
Yeah, so we don't want a system where, look, freedom is freedom. It means the ability to do what you want within the reasonable confines and dictates of the law. You don't harm people, but you should be able to create. And when you create, you should be paid for it, or you should be recognized for it. You should be honored for it. And that best place to do that is the market. Because the market, naturally, it allows people to see what you have and to appreciate it, to taste it, to buy it, to whatever. Whereas in a dictatorship, that doesn't happen. The dictator doesn't know what you have, and he cannot even value it. It's the market that can value what you have and allow it to be distributed. And then people buy according to the demand and the supply and so on. So a market is the best place for the seduction to work. But the legal culture has to support honesty, reliability, quality of standards, security, to make sure that when you do the business, the expected results will come. Nobody will cheat you and hurt you and take advantage of you. Nobody will come and harm you. That the products are good and the services are up to standard. That's the function of the legal culture. Not a dictatorship, but a rule of law.
Okay. So there is one subheading. I tried reading over it, but still couldn't get anything. That's the sacred as the exception. What is the sacred and what is it all about?
So the sacred is a domain of the nation, deep. For example, life is sacred. And so when we're talking about seduction and power, that should always be held sacred. People's lives should not be used as a pawn or in a game. People should not be destroyed and dehumanized because of power. People should not be jailed and enslaved and marginalized and excluded because of power. People should be supported to live, and not only supported to live, supported to create, and not only supported to create, supported to work together. And because we hold life as sacred, whoever murders one person is as if he's murdered a whole nation. And so when I talk about the sacred as exceptional, is the sacred as the most important, that we have to set for our countries what is most important. It starts with the human life, it starts with human dignity, it starts with human freedom. And if you think of life, dignity, and freedom, then you can actually have a better society.
Okay. And then with our nations, do you think we should have all nations become smart nations? Because I actually think some should be dumb and some should be smart.
Tell me about it. I'm interested. Why should some be dumb?
Because, let's say, in this world, we are all not equal. We have people that are, let's say, poor and those that are rich. And the poor help the rich. Like the farmers help the big men and the big people, like the businessmen. So I think, some countries should remain dumb so the other countries can benefit. So that dumb people will later on benefit from the smart people. Or you think it shouldn't work that way?
I think insofar as dumb people suffer, are oppressed, are marginalized, and they have problems, nobody should be dumb. Everybody should be smart so they can solve their own problems, so they can help one another. To be dumb is to suffer, and nobody should suffer, so nobody should be dumb.
Okay, viewers, the show has come to an end. I'm sure you learned a lot from all the knowledge that our professor has given to us. I pray that we all will take this into consideration and be the smart people so we can help our nations be the smart nations. Thank you for staying with us and enjoy the rest of your day.
Sweet sound and barrel and dippily heavily ever to back up be building. Sweet sound and barrel and dippily heavily ever to back up be building. Bobby, she was pretty.